Hi everyone. So I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Um, so happy Friday. I don't know if this will be going up on a Friday when you guys see it, but it is Friday today, and I have some really good news I wanted to share with you guys. And yeah, so I have been looking for a job for about a year, but longer in terms of looking for a job that might be something I really enjoy and can use different skills that I have, rather than just making money. So I've gone to quite a few interviews, and today I went to one, um, and I got the job. Like, yeah, I'm really, really excited. I'm going to be getting to work with kids, like help them with homework. Um, They're going to be doing different activities, just like watch over them after school, um, with like a school program. So I'm like really, really, really excited. And um, yeah, you know, um, it's taken such a weight off my shoulders because I had been trying to look for a job for like a really long time. And if you know, like it's very hard to find jobs that are not mostly manual labor jobs that are going to like be very physically demanding. And so I wanted to find a job that wasn't going to be like that because I have just still been recovering after everything. And so I'm just really blown away because God just, you know, brought this opportunity into my life, not super long ago. And I'd had quite a few interviews that just either did not seem right or I felt God being like, no, like, not it. So, not that it was, ministered to me in those terms, but it was more like I didn't have peace about something and I couldn't take certain offers, and it felt like something bad was going to happen in my spirit. So, I had, an interview like that, and I had some other ones, and it's just been quite a process. And it can feel discouraging when like you need a specific kind of job and it's really hard to find those kind of jobs and you feel like everything is falling through. And so yeah, it's been a process, but I'm really excited because it's a job that sounds right up my alley, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's been a long time since I've had something to like look forward to in my life. Like, I post a lot of videos I do because, like, for me, just certain goals that I have in the back of my mind or aspirations have been like the only thing that I've had what feels like to look forward to. So it's been like my mindset for a long time has been this like rush, like, let me get a job as fast as I can, let me make money as fast as I can, let me move out, let me work on the creative projects I want to work on, and then, continue with whatever, God has. But I'm in a place where I have not felt peace in a really, really long time, where it's like I feel like I can just breathe, and not only like I'm not struggling to like find a job anymore, like a nice, good, stable job where I can stay for a while, something that I really enjoy. And I really felt like behind a lot of people my age, seeing them at like stable jobs or in, careers. I'm going to be 27 November 18th, by the way, fun fact. That's my birthday. But I really felt behind for a long time, kind of not having that job. And I feel like, and just kind of working just to make money. And now I feel like I have something that I might really enjoy. And my soft spokenness actually paid off in an interview, because sometimes it's like, people maybe don't want to hire you as much because you are more soft spoken, and they want someone that's really like confident and not that way. And so for this interview, it really kind of more paid off because, it's like nice to have a kind of calmer presence in a job like that rather than me being like super, super authoritative. Um, I hope that makes sense. But yeah, it was one of the most like calm interviews I'd ever experience. Fun fact, really have hated job interviews. So I find it really interesting because I still went to all these job interviews. And it was not fun. Like, I don't like job interviews. Like, it's hard to have confidence and just go to job interviews. Um, it's hard. Um, but this was the calmest one that I had ever like been to in my life, and I just felt so much peace, even though like, you know, normally I'd be nervous about them asking questions, but it was like just they just came out and I was like, wow, like never had a job interview like that, I don't think. So that was amazing, and I really believe I was just experiencing the peace of God toward that job, and um yeah, it was just really, really great. Um, just that finally happening. And my birthday hasn't happened yet, but I'm just really, really blown away. And I see why so many jobs in the past have like not gone through. Whereas I would get discouraged or upset or frustrated for like, it can feel like, well, I'm never going to find anything, I have specific stipulations that I need. And so I'm just really blown away at what God has done. I wanted to do this video today on like things that have helped me in when it comes to like waiting on God for things, or trusting God for things such as a job. I wanted to go into this video because I wanted to talk about things that have been really, really helpful for me. Maybe some of you know this, maybe some of you this will be helpful for, or can be a reminder. But I just wanted to share kind of some of these things because there's times where I've, felt frustrated or discouraged. And yeah. One thing I want to say that has been a really huge shift in my life is instead of when things fall through, okay, so maybe it's a job, maybe it's people in your life, right? Just different things in your life. I cannot tell you how many times in the past, before I knew how God worked and that He was, um, intimately involved in every detail of my life. And that's the thing. I feel like the more that we bring everything in our life to God and every detail of our life, and we share that with Him, the more like He will be involved in that. In our lives, or at least we can feel like He is more involved because we have brought those things to Him, and just there's a greater trust that can come from that. But I cannot tell you how many times where I would, experience things like this, where things would like fall through, or you name it, and I would internalize it. hmm Whether it's jobs, whether it's people treating you a certain way, where it can be challenging not to feel upset or feel like there's something wrong with you. Why, okay, why did that fall through, and obviously many of us will think, well, it just wasn't the right fit. But one thing that was really helpful for me, because I understand it can be really discouraging when like feels like nothing is happening, or you look around, you feel like things are happening for everyone else. So, one thing that is really, really been helpful is when those times come. For example, like when I go to an interview and it's like, oh, they didn't call back, instead of like nitpicking, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that, instead saying, that wasn't the job that God wanted for me. And I also think it's really huge just to put things in God's hands, when you are like going to interviews or like being in new social situations and kind of similar things like that. I think it can be really, really helpful to pray that prayer, because it's like, I don't have to be upset if I don't get this, because you have something for me, God. And a lot of times God does have something better for us. And so many times, I know in my life, I have thought, oh, well, if I just had this job at this right time, but God knew, no, like that wasn't the proper timing, or God knew, that's not quite the job for you. This job will be really, really good for you. You'll be a really good fit for it. And now I'm like really, really thankful, that things did work out in that way. But I just encourage you, to, unless you already do this, then, just a reminder. But, and I'm going to be talking about more things, so don't close out the video even if you've heard this before. But just putting it in God's hands, and just when things like that happen, like things fall through, you know, really reminding yourself, okay, that wasn't what God wanted for me, or He has another job for me. It was in His hands, it's in His hands. Okay, that's not quite what He wanted for me. That has been really helpful, because I can't tell you how like devastated I used to be when I would like go for interviews, like way in the past, and like not get a job, and I would start being like, well, what did I do wrong? Sometimes that's not where you're supposed to be. That's not where you're supposed to be in that timing, or that particular job. So I just want to encourage you, no matter what it may be, if it's opportunities in your life, if it's just whatever timing essentially, or whatever thing you are waiting for, just putting that in God's hands, and reminding yourself, oh, okay, that's not quite what God has for me, or that's not what He wants for me, or He has something better, even if I can't see, even if I can't understand it. Okay, the next thing I want to go into, kind of pertaining to this, is it was on my mind, and then it just kind of oh, okay. Here's the thing, kind of in the season of life I have been in, being at college, struggling with my health, going through different forms of trauma when it comes to different relationships. Honestly, I'm not trying to laugh at that. I'm just kind of laughing at just the absurdity of what everything has been. You guys know I laugh to cope, but after going through all that, I, have now realized what a luxury it is to have space to rest in your life, and have space to relax in your life. And my goodness, like it is such a it's such a luxury that we have as humans, that not everyone gets, especially to have like safety where you are, where like your life is not being threatened. It's such a luxury for us to have rest, and be able to relax, and be able to have like quiet time with God, for example. And I don't know what season you guys are in, but for me, I'm in a season where I'm like kind of separated from quite a few people, and God is just leading and guiding, and ministering, and continuing to do some healing. But I'm kind of in a season where, or I've been through this season. I guess it's kind of shifting. But I've definitely been in seasons in my life where it feels like nothing is happening. It feels like you're just isolated from people, where you can feel really alone, and you feel like everyone else is like moving forward with their lives, but you're not. And I remember when there were times where it can feel kind of mundane, or life can feel boring, or you can feel like, oh, I need to rush, I need to push, I need to get this done, I need to do this. Never forget what a luxury it is to be able to have that time to spend with God. Okay. At some point in our lives, especially for those of us kind of moving more and more toward how God is leading us, and eventually at some point walking in the purposes that He has been leading us to, we're not going to have like all this space for rest and to spend all this quiet time with God, to spend all this time with God. We are going to be doing other things in our lives. And so often we can wish for that destination that we want to reach, or those things that we want to do or fulfill. There's nothing wrong with that. But so often we miss out on the beauty that we have right now in this present moment. Like just having space to rest, especially if you've been through a lot. If you've been through a lot of warfare, I mean, like you crave rest. To have space to rest, to have space to relax, to have space to spend all this quiet time with God. Really, really, getting to just sit at His feet, and Him ministering to you, and Him teaching you things, and Him bringing healing to your life, and that rest that we have, when we're not constantly on the go and busy, busy, busy. And I really hope, like, as my life starts kind of picking up a little bit more and more, that I will be able to still maintain that sense of rest, and that sense of that quiet space, where even if I'm busier, I'm always making time for that quiet, because I think it's very, very important. We live in such a fast-paced, frantic, busy, achievement-based society, which is really kind of the opposite of all of that. So it's really important that we, don't take that for granted in the season that we're in, or if we've been in this season for a long time. Yeah, it's just really important that we just, it can be such a beautiful time. I know that it can feel really lonely, and I know it can just feel like, nothing is happening, but I encourage you just to really, really appreciate this time that you have to rest, this time, if you're recovering from anything, if you're healing from anything, just to really appreciate this time of rest that you have. I remember being in college and just rushing to classes, and man, it was rough. And I remember I just would be thinking, I just wish I had all this time to spend with God, because it's like I would spend time with God before I would go to bed, or in the mornings, but a lot of time I'd have to rush, but I would only have these little spaces of time where, I had to worry about homework, I had to worry about going to classes, I had to worry about just trying to breathe. I was talking to my mom, I said I was just trying to breathe, and I mean on a literal sense, because I was very, very out of breath on top of everything. But I remember thinking that, and when I felt God leading me to withdraw from college, and I didn't understand at the time, but I was like, okay, let me just make sure we got confirmation. Okay, we're doing this. But I remember whenever I was out of college, there wasn't a lot for me to do, and I just felt like nothing was really happening. And I just had all this time on my hands, and at first I just was like, I want to move forward with all these things, but over time, I remember thinking, I prayed for this. I wanted this. I wanted all this time to spend with God. And sometimes when God has placed a desire in your heart, or different things that you want to do, it's really understandable. We want to fulfill them, and we want to walk in those things. But I encourage you just to really, really take in and embrace the time that you have with God. Now, you have all this time to spend with Him, and He has all this time He wants to spend with you. And it really is just such a beautiful, beautiful saying that once your life starts really, really picking up, we're not going to have all of that space and time. So really, really, really appreciate it. If you're in that season right now, because things could start shifting or changing, and one day it probably is going to be different. So, and like I said, it's very much a luxury, especially kind of if you have been through a lot of things, to have that quiet and that calm and that time to just spend with God. So I just encourage you, really just embrace that. I feel like God is so excited, when we are in that isolation period, because he's excited to spend all this time with us, to teach us all these things, to minister to us, even though sometimes it can be really hard. So I just want to encourage you, if you are in that season where, maybe friends have fallen out of your life, or, God has led you away from places, that, you would just really, really just take in God's love for you, and just all this time that, He is so excited to spend with you. Okay. The last thing I want to go into is, last couple things. If God leads you to do something you may not understand, I encourage you, always get confirmation. Make sure that is from Him, because the enemy can kind of come in and scramble things. But for example, the example I gave, I felt God leading me to withdraw from college, and it didn't make sense, and I didn't know if I could go back into the environment that I was in, because it was just very overwhelming at one point. So it didn't really make sense to me, based on the circumstance and situation and what things had been. And probably a lot of people wouldn't understand, when I say, oh yeah, I withdrew from college, and I will always say, yeah, well, I was doing with this health stuff, I was bedridden, I was struggling. But I feel like not a lot of people would understand if I'm like, yeah, I felt the Lord leading me to withdraw from college, so I made sure, confirmation was what I was supposed to do, and I did. And it didn't maybe make sense in the moment. I kid you not, guys, I had 2 semesters left. 2 semesters left, y'all. That's it. And I would have graduated. Now, I'm so thankful that God moved in the way He did, in so many ways. Man, but I was struggling. I was really struggling to get through everything. It was very, 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 very rough, but it didn't make sense to me in the moment when I had 2 semesters left. I thought, surely I can just push through. And then, other people, it might not make sense. You had 2 semesters left, but God saved me a ton of money in debt. He, He saw how much I was struggling. He saw also kind of the people I was around at the time, not really in my college, but that I was around at the time. And, he was trying to get me away from people that weren't really for me, But my point is, when God leads you to do something, it may not make sense. It might not seem even logical. And I encourage you, always make sure you get confirmation from God, that you have peace, that you have clarity. There are a lot of confirmations that I was seeing, even around me, and I was just like, okay, God, this is definitely you. And then when I finally withdrew, I was just like, I could take a deep breath for the first time in a long time, really probably since I started going to college, and that alone was confirmation too. But when God leads you to do something, it might not make sense, but I encourage you to follow His leading, because He knows what He's doing, and He sees the things that we don't. And so it didn't make sense to me at the time, but as I had, kind of been home for a while, and I literally was watching myself improve physically, but also, seeing, God is going to provide me a job. Even if I didn't finish my degree, I'm still going to be able to work, and I can still use what I learned in college and apply it to my life. And, but I definitely didn't understand things in that way at the time, and based on what the circumstances and situations looked like. But I encourage you, when God leads you to do something, listen to that leading. And of course, know that you can always bring your fears and anxieties before him. Whatever you're feeling, he doesn't just want you to, like, it's painted in the church like just jump at what the Lord is telling you in obedience, do it immediately. But I think it's really important to have clarity and confirmation and peace before you do things, because like I said, the enemy can lead you into a scramble. But I believe God would rather us bring our fears and anxieties before him honestly than us jump in anxiety trying to do what he wants us to do. I believe God would so much more prefer for us to say, hey, Lord, I'm really scared to do this, or I don't know if this is the right decision, rather than us like jumping but being very anxious and kind of a wreck because we're trying to obey God. Like, God wants you to bring those fears and anxieties before him when it comes to like anything. I really believe he prefers that over us just jumping, but you're like a wreck in the process. That's why I mentioned, in one of my videos, being grounded in his love. I believe like that's something God has been trying to teach me for quite a while. And you wonder how you're going to do certain things. And it's like having that grounding of his love, where it's like you are not that anxious wreck when he's leading you to do things, but it's like that you can bring everything before him, which leads to my last point. My relationship with God, and in terms of prayer, I don't like pray formally like maybe a lot of Christians do. I'm still learning how to kind of have a prayer life. So if anyone has any like tips, please put them down below, especially like warfare prayers. But for me, like I've struggled with like very much obsessing over praying in the past, almost like kind of like OCD. If you've dealt with that, like you know what I mean, it can make praying really, really challenging. But one thing that I do, I don't always like pray every day or have known how to like pray formally in a lot of the ways that we're kind of taught. But one thing I do is I talk to God every day. So some people might call that a form of prayer. I'm not really sure. But this has been really, really huge. And I believe, this is what God wants with us. He wants us to talk to him. He wants a relationship with you. He doesn't want your religious rituals. So I've talked in other videos about how I try to spend time in God's word every day. I'm not, the best at it, but I try to. But one thing I've noticed is if I'm trying to do all these things for God, like I'm trying to spend time in the Word, I'm trying to pray, like I'm doing things in this ritualistic way, but I'm not talking to God every day, I'm not really spending time with him in relationship, then it's like, well, that peace that only God can give, when it comes to my worries, my cares, my burdens, I'm not receiving that peace he wants to give me, and just that joy and that calm that he can bring of being in relationship with him. And so one thing that I've noticed in my life is, like I said, I don't necessarily pray formally, which praying is really just talking to God. That's what it is. But when I talk about talking to God every day, I mean, sometimes I don't talk audibly. Sometimes it's kind of in my head or in my spirit or in my heart. I don't know how to kind of word it, and that can be helpful too, because when God shows you things, when God ministers things to you, when God shows you things about your life, a lot of times it's like he'll show us it in our spirit, or he'll minister that to our spirit. And I believe one reason God does that is because the enemy can't, see those things. But if we speak things out with our voice, with our mouth, then he can hear those things, obviously, and kind of see what God's doing in your life. And so that's why I also think, not always talking out loud, like verbally, can be really helpful, because then, you can have this like conversation with God, but the enemy has no idea. He's saying, like, because God interacts with us spirit to spirit. But anyways, And then I would just do that because I struggled with my voice. I struggled with praying at one point with my voice. Like my voice would get very irritated, or like I would have almost like a choking feeling when I would try to speak. So that did happen at one point. But my point is my relationship with God and how I view that has really changed considerably. One way that I keep from getting discouraged in certain situations is when it comes to God, I look at him as my heavenly Father that I can tell anything to. He wants us to have a relationship with him. Instead of us just praying our prayer requests. Um, he wants to have a relationship with us. You know what I mean? Like he wants us to talk to him. He wants us to share and wants us to know everything that's on our heart. He wants us to give him our burdens, give him our cares, and not in a way where like we feel like we can't be completely honest with him, or we feel like he doesn't listen to us, but in a way where he's like right there. But he doesn't just want our prayer requests. He wants a relationship with you, like this daily relationship where you know that you can be honest with him, you can talk to him about whatever is laying heavy on your heart, whatever things you're waiting for in your life. And this has been really helpful, where I may not know like fully how to incorporate prayer kind of with the obsession I've dealt with, but it's been really huge to view things in this way where I know that because I'm talking to God every day about things in my life, whatever it may be, just my life, the way you would talk to someone else, the way you would talk to a person that, loves you about what's going on in your life, like this is what's going on, this is what's being heavy, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is, this really great thing happened, it's really, that's really what having a relationship with God is. Hold on, guys. Hello. It's always like the scam calls, I'm saying, but you never know. But that's really what a relationship with God is like, is, talking to him every day, sharing all those things with him, that's more how I approach things now, rather than, I don't know, I don't necessarily like pray in that way where it's like, this is what I need. I more just talk to God about like what's going on in my life and know that he knows what's going on in my life. But this has been really, really huge because it's helped me not get discouraged as much, because it's about that relationship that you have with God, that it's just like no matter what is happening in my life, it's like that relationship is everything, you know what I mean? It's similar in like if you had a human relationship, maybe you were going through things in your life, or maybe you're waiting for things in your life, but it's like that relationship, would be everything, you know what I'm saying? And, you get to talk to that person about what you're going through, you get to bring all that stuff before them. And even though maybe that person couldn't solve that thing for you, but that's the difference with God. With God, we may share things with humans and they may not be able to solve that problem for you, but when we bring things to God, it's like he can, and he can give you those things that you need. So that's the only difference. But I hope that makes sense. God, he wants a relationship with you where you talk to him, You know what I'm saying? Where you can talk to him about anything. He wants you to just talk to him, to be honest with him, to have this relationship with him. And you might think, well, this is what I need, in my life, but you would be surprised, how just having that relationship and developing that relationship with God, where it's like He can give you that peace you need in the moment. He can give you that love that you're looking for, whatever it may be within that relationship. Where maybe if you don't have that thing in your life that you need or that you're waiting for, or trusting God for, it's like, but you have this relationship where no matter what is happening, He is your Heavenly Father who loves you, that you can run to and everything, and you can lay all your burdens down and just talk to Him about anything. And so, yeah, I really hope this video can help any of you. That's the big thing that I really want to share with some of you that maybe have had questions as far as, having a relationship with God, because we're taught all these things, kind of from a religious standpoint. I just encourage you, talk to God. Like he wants to, reach your heart, and how He does that is us really coming to Him honestly and transparently and vulnerably about where we are in our life and what's happening and what we're feeling, and just really talking to Him the way you would talk to a friend, that you could trust, and just pouring your heart out before Him and just talking to Him. And so I really hope this helps you. And I think it's really amazing, because even when we're going through things in this life, we get to receive the love that He has for us in the midst of our situations. And First John talks about, perfect love casts out fear, and I believe it refers to Jesus' perfect love casted out fear, that we don't have to be afraid of God. And He looks at us with love, not with anger or disappointment. But it's also, what I have noticed in my life is, you can have something in your life where there's a lot of fear or anxiety there, whatever it may be, but God, it's His love that, meets you in that fear, meets you in that anxiety, and just casts it out as He comforts you in His presence, and ministers to you in His love. And when I say that relationship is everything, I mean, it's everything, just to have Him to run to, and His love to rest in, no matter what we are going through. And so I really hope this video ministers to you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Welcome to any new subscribers. Hope you guys have a happy Friday and a good weekend, depending on when you end up watching this, when I end up uploading it. But thank you so much for watching. God bless you.